The next standard is Ind AS 38, that is intangible asset. It's the first chapter in your notes if you open the index. Okay. Ind AS 38 and Ind AS 16, many concepts are similar. If you remember Ind AS 16 concepts thoroughly, this will be like more or less a cakewalk in respect to many concepts. Okay, we'll see. Okay, all right. First standard always talks about inclusions and exclusions. Here they have talked about few things which are excluded from Ind AS 38 intangible assets. Fair enough. Or maybe before I start with the standard, let me get an understanding as to how much you know about intangible asset. What according to you is an intangible asset? Intangible asset according to you.
It does not have a tangible aspect of touch and feel.
Doesn't have a tangible aspect of touch and feel, meaning you can't, basically in simple terms you're saying you can't see them.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, anything else?
But it still gives you some benefit.
It doesn't, though it's not visible, it still gives you some benefit. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Patent. Correct. Let's say you have a patent. Patent normally you register.
Yeah.
Patent comes on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Correct. Paper is visible.
But that's exactly
1, 2. Okay, I'll just continue with another example. Okay, software. Software comes in a CD, CD, or it comes in a pen drive. Possible. That's visible. That's physically visible. You can touch it and feel it. So tangible asset, intangible asset. The software, the patents that you get it on piece of paper, the brand logos that is visible on company documents. You see Nike ka logo, Reliance ka logo, all printed on that paper. Correct? That means you can see them, touch them, feel them if you want. Correct? No, I mean, how much of it you feel, it's okay. It's a debatable issue. Correct? But you can see, are they still intangible assets or tangible assets? Just since you said it's a you can't touch or feel them, I just want to just debate a little bit on this. It's okay. So what do you think? The software and the patent which is come in a piece of paper and in a pen drive.
Actually, the paper and the CD is actually a means of.
It's a means of transportation. Okay, you mean to say they are insignificant.
Yeah.
So intangible asset does not necessarily mean that like you literally can't see them. Okay, it is in little physical forms. Like software, you'll always get it in. Mostly you'll get it in a like pen drive only. But you are buying the software for the you are buying that particular component software for software purpose or pen drive purpose. Software purpose. That means you have to check what is the dominant element there. Okay, intangible asset, though they say it is invisible, actually like it has a little bit of physical component, but the physical component that it carries is very insignificant. Hence we ignore it. Okay, hence we say it is we don't touch or see, feel enough. Is it okay? This is one thing I wanted to clarify. Got it? Okay. All right. Okay. So now can we get to the other components of the standards?
Yeah.
Okay. First is the exclusions. What are the things that are not covered under this particular standard? Okay, know a few, there are many. It's okay, as much as you can remember, that's okay. Alright. One is intangible assets held for sale in the ordinary course of business. Something which is sold in the ordinary course of business. Suppose there is a company which sells software to their customers regularly. Since they are selling in the regular course of business, it's an inventory for them. Hence, Ind AS 2 gets triggered there. You should not apply Ind AS 38, you should apply Ind AS 2 there. Correct? No? Yeah. And deferred tax asset. Let's ignore this for the time being. You have studied, this is AS 22, taxes on income. If you have any deferred tax assets, Ind AS 38 is not applicable. You have deferred income tax standard, you have to apply that. That is Ind AS 12, okay? Which you have studied as AS 22 in your IPCC. Yes. Lease of intangible assets. Lease of intangible asset is covered under Ind AS 116. Since that standard talks about those principles, like leave out them here, okay? Financial assets you have, in fact, financial assets you have 3 standards, but the definition and all is covered under Ind AS 32. Okay, so that standard talks about it, so leave it off. And the most important one, goodwill arising on business combination, which is Ind AS 103. Okay. Just to clarify your one point, no goodwill is accounted under Ind AS 38. Or to put it in layman terms, goodwill is not an intangible asset as far as Ind AS 38 is concerned. Why? We will see the definition of intangible asset. Then whatever statement I made now will make sense to you. Got it? I'll repeat that statement. Goodwill is not a intangible asset as far as Ind AS 38 is concerned. Goodwill arising on business combination. Business combination is nothing but amalgamation. You remember in your IPCC you studied something known as amalgamation of companies, right, which we call it as business combination here. Ind AS ka terminology for that is business combination. So goodwill arising on account of amalgamation is accounted as per Ind AS 103. Fair enough. And other goodwills, okay, is not accounted here at all. Goodwill basically is not accounted as per Ind AS 38 at all.
Okay.
Fine. Okay. Then we have financial assets and all. Again, Ind AS 32 is available. And exploration assets. Remember, PP excluded exploration assets.
Yeah.
So if you have any exploration assets, matlab mineral ores ka software and all that stuff, then that goes under Ind AS 106, which is taken off from your syllabus, so you don't have to break your head too much. Remember as much as possible. Fair enough. Exclusions mein. All right. Now coming to the most important part. Meaning of the term intangible asset. You need some time to write down anything?
So, first point, and then there are other 3 points, right?
Just they're saying like, you know, intangible assets which are within the scope of another standard. Okay, it's basically all other standard covers it. That's the way they've structured in study material, hence we've bought it. All this ABs, you know, other standard talks about it, hence it is excluded from here. That's all. You just have to write that in your examination. You don't have to like write A, B, C and all. You can just write intangible assets which are held in the ordinary course of business, deferred tax, financial instruments. Like this 4-5 points you call out. If at all they ask what is excluded from Ind AS 38. We have not seen such questions coming in new syllabus so far. Alright, the specific exclusion, but that does not mean that it can't come. What can come, what can't come, very difficult to debate. Hence, I am always like a big fan of knowing something from everything. Skipping in total is something which I have not adopted when I was a student, nor do I suggest you. Fair enough. Know something. If you feel some topic is too much for you due to lack of time or any other reason for that matter, if you feel it is difficult, know 2 or 3 points. It's okay. Even if you get 2 marks out of 10, I'm happy with that. But if you get 0 out of 10, it is a blunder according to me. Because some students fail only because like, you know, they couldn't make that aggregate by 2 or 3 marks. All this will add up. So at least know something from every topic. Because it's natural. CA final syllabus is very vast that some students, they will start a little late. 2 months before the exam they start. They'll have 8 subjects. So they will have less preparation time and they feel like, you know, they'll look at the weightage of the paper. In fact, if you check, we have already finished one topic, but nowhere I've mentioned about weightage and all. If you check institute material, they have weightage given for each topic. But I have not discussed with you. I will discuss it only at the end of the session because I am not a fan of weightage. Because weightage, if you check there, they have not given specific weights. Weights is in the range, like 5 to 15%. When your preparation is on the lower side, you feel only 5 marks, no, we'll skip it off. But unfortunately, if in your attempt, if that comes for 15 marks, gone. And if it comes as a compulsory question, gone only. Psychologically also gone. Hence, I am not discussing weights with you for the time being. We'll do all the standards, we'll finish the syllabus fully. And on the last day, then we'll take up the exam paper pattern and this one. Fair enough, that I will show you and give you a quick recap as to how to go about writing the examination and those tips. First, let's know the concepts. That way, we'll be able to relate it better. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
Alright. We'll put this on hold for the time being. We'll start with this meaning of the term intangible asset. In fact, this you studied in like, you know, AS 26 also.
Yeah.
Okay, same thing is coming here also. AS 26 had one more extra component, here that is not there. Intangible asset is an intangible, like PP you had 3 definitions of definition of PP means it satisfies 3 characteristics. Yes or no? Intangible asset also should satisfy 3 characteristics. One is identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. Same was there in your AS 26 also. One extra point was there in AS 26 which is held for use either for production of goods, rendering a service or administrative purpose. That was the 4th point in AS 26 accounting standard. Here that point is not there here. They have only kept 3. Don't write AS ka definition and all. Write only 3. Identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. If these 3 characteristics are satisfied, you can call a component as intangible asset. Does that make sense? Okay. Alright. If these 3 criteria are satisfied, a particular cost can be referred to as an intangible asset. Identifiable, definition is very important, hence I'm spending a little time here. Identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. Fine. Now we'll spend a minute or we'll spend some time on each characteristics. What is the first characteristic? Identifiable. Correct. First listen to me, then we will we can write short notes or anything if you require that. Identifiable means you can say something is identifiable if you can segregate it and sell it. In simple terms, if you can identify something, if you want to identify an intangible asset means you should be able to segregate it, meaning separate it and sell it. If you are able to do that, it's identifiable. One, or it should arise out of a contract or a law. Either of these two conditions are satisfied means you can say a component is identifiable. Let me repeat that. You can call an intangible asset as identifiable provided you can separate it and sell it. Fair enough. And to what? If you can't do that, at least you should arise on account of a contract or on account of a law. If these two criteria are satisfied, you could say identifiable criteria is satisfied. Got it? Goodwill fails this criteria. Hence, it is not an intangible asset. What I say identifiable was? You should be able to separate it and sell it. Can you sell the goodwill? Alone? No. Yeah, you should be able to sell it alone. Can you sell it? Can you sell a patent?
Yeah.
Can you sell a software?
Yeah.
Yes. Can you sell a brand name? Yes. Logo? Yes. But goodwill can you sell? Because you can't separate it. It's goodwill means like it's related to business as a whole. You can sell a whole business. Correct? But can you sell goodwill alone? Can you sell goodwill alone? I have 10,000 rupees goodwill. Take. Will you take? Arivo Pro Academy has a goodwill of 10,000 rupees now. I'm just posted an advertisement. My goodwill 10,000 rupees. I posted an ad. Furniture 50,000 rupees. Goodwill 10,000 rupees.
Associated with the brand.
Correct. It's associated with the business as a whole. Fair enough. When you in amalgamation, you used to get goodwill. How you used to calculate goodwill, sir? If you remember,
Net of,
you used to have something known as purchase method. This is only for those guys who remember amalgamation in IPCC. If you've forgotten, that's okay, no problem. It will come in business combination. Okay, and you had two methods: purchase method or pooling of interest method or merger method. Correct? No. Under purchase method only goodwill used to arise. Correct? No. We used to calculate something known as the net assets. Net asset of a business. Let's say it is 10 lakh rupees. Okay, and we used to calculate something known as PC, that is purchase consideration. Let's say that was 12 lakh rupees. Correct? Net asset of a business is the net worth of a business. Correct? No. Business owns assets and liability. How do you get net assets? Assets minus liability. Yes or no? Like, so to simplify, I have 10,000 rupees cash with me. I have to pay 1,000 rupees to you. I have 10,000 cash with me. I have to pay 1,000 rupees to you. Can you tell me how much is my net worth? I have cash with me 10,000. I have a creditor to pay worth 1,000 rupees. Can you calculate net worth for me? 9,000. How did you calculate that? Assets minus liability. This only we call it as net assets. Hence net assets we always used to refer it as net worth. There, correct or no? Now coming back. Let's say the worth of this company. Let's say this is for A Limited. A Limited ka net asset is how much? 10 lakh. That means the worth of A Limited is how much? 10 lakh. But let's say B Limited purchased A Limited by paying how much as purchase consideration? 12 lakh. 10 lakh worth of business, they paid how much, sir? 12 lakh. Are they paying extra or less?
Extra.
How much extra? 2 lakh. That extra only we used to call it as goodwill. Yes or no? Is this a specific asset or related to whole business? Whole business. Hence goodwill fails identifiability criteria. Got it? This we call it as goodwill arising on account of business combination or amalgamation, which Ind AS 103 covers it. Okay, how to account this goodwill? No, Ind AS 103 defines it, not Ind AS 38. Got it? Other goodwill fails the identifiability criteria, hence we don't account it. Easy so far? Everybody? Too much? Am I going fast or manageable? Yes, sir.
Sir, if I'm selling my logo.
About this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm selling my logo to another party, and when he is using it, actually he is getting the goodwill that I have associated with the brand, right?
You can't.
Can't?
Again, that is related to whole business. How do you account it? How much of it will you allocate? Allocation will be too much headache. Correct. Now the question that has come up is like, we have a logo. I sold my logo. Let's say Nike was there. They have that tick mark logo, audit ka ulta. Correct. That tick mark they sold to another company. Just if you put this tick mark on one shirt, easily it will sell. Correct or no? Because you don't know the Nike, you don't have to write Nike. If you just write the symbol, it will sell. Hence, let's say they sold this to another company, A Limited. And A Limited obviously will benefit from this. Correct? That you are saying it should be accounted as goodwill. Yes or no? How much is the question?
How much are the A Limited pays?
Let's say A Limited is, for the brand, let's say they paid 1 crore. Or let's say they paid like 100 crore rupees. Correct? Using this, they let's say get the benefit of 500 crore. How much of it will you allocate?
What A Limited gets is different. So what Nike actually gets.
Brand you record, it's okay. Brand, if you are clearly able to sell it, meaning you are able to segregate it and sell it, means clearly brand is identifiable. Record that as intangible. I have no issues with that. Your question was goodwill. Where is the goodwill? Here is the pointer.
But brand is actually goodwill.
No, that you have to segregate. Brand, logos, trademarks, everything is separate asset here. In IPCC and all, yes, everything was like you could pool under one thing. Okay, brand, logo, trademark, everything you could copyright, you could put it as one. Here you have to segregate. Because if you are able to segregate it and sell it, that is an intangible asset. If you are not able to segregate it, it is not an intangible asset. Hence, here you have to segregate. Fair enough. Yes, didn't spend too much time, or IPCC didn't have so much complicated concepts there. It was pretty straightforward. Got it? Hence, they did not talk about it. In fact, definition was there. By applying the definition there also, in fact, in my class, if you attended my IPCC class, I would have told the same thing. Goodwill is not an intangible asset because it fails the identifiability criteria. Got it? So far, fine? Okay. We only discussed identifiability. Correct? No? Alright. Okay. Here we have written an asset is identifiable if it is separable or if it arises out of contract or legal rights. Just underline these two. That is sufficient. All other things are fine. I'm projecting there. An asset is identifiable if it is separable and if it arises out of contract or legal rights. Any question? Contract. So you understood this. Yeah. Separable one. You are wondering how can it arise out of a contract? Correct? Let's say there is a company, SpiceJet. Okay, SpiceJet, they operate across various cities. They run flights across various cities. Can you just like that take off the flights, or you require certain permission for it? You require certain license for it? Landing rights, correct? Let's say SpiceJet has a landing rights of 10 years. Government has given a landing rights to SpiceJet for 10 years. Okay, between Bangalore to Bombay route. They have one route. Because they have to park their aircrafts and all, no? Obviously they have to take permission from the government of India and airport authorities. And airport authorities and government have given a landing rights to SpiceJet for how many years? 10 years between this route. Meaning they can operate, they can use all the facilities of the airport for those 10 years. Correct? Does SpiceJet own that airport? No. Do they own Bombay airport or Bangalore airport? No. But they have a landing rights. Correct? Landing rights is arising on account of can SpiceJet sell it? Depends on the conditions which government had told. Government tells you can transfer this landing rights to somebody means you can sell it. If they say you cannot transfer it, it is exclusively belonging to you. That means can you sell it? No. Then it means it might fail the separability criteria because you can't sell it. But it is arising on account of a contract. Okay. Correct or no? This is what we call it as arising on account of contract. Easy? Okay. Fair enough? It's or. Separable or arising out of contract. Not necessarily both the conditions are satisfied. Underline that. You understood the example, sir? All the broadcasting license that you have, broadcasting license you have, broadcasting rights, IPL rights and all you have, no? Correct? Let's say Hotstar has IPL rights. Correct? Do they own IPL? Or the stadium or the cricketing players? But they can broadcast IPL matches for few years. 4 years or 10 years, whatever that is. Yes or no? That is arising as part of a contract. Even that is an intangible asset. That franchisee rights, etc., etc. Easy? That is your second component. Manageable? Yeah. Okay. Can we have a quick recap? Yeah. What is the definition of intangible asset we said? It should be an identifiable asset. It should be identifiable rather. Second one, non-monetary asset without physical substance. Correct? These are the three things. Among that we covered identifiability. For you to call component as identifiable, what should be satisfied? You should be able to separate it and sell it. If you are able to do it, you could say separability criteria is satisfied or it is identifiable. Or if you can't sell it, check if it is arising on account of a contract or a law. Like this rights, landing rights, broadcasting rights, franchisee rights, etc., etc. Fair enough. If it is arising on account of a contract, then also you can book it as an intangible asset. Easy? Okay. Now, if you have understood the identifiability criteria, can we apply it in one other question? Now here we'll have concept, question like that. Fine? Alright. Sun Limited, and all these questions are from study material only. Fair enough? For those questions, if you don't see any reference like RTP, MTPs, if you don't see any reference, that means all the questions are from study material. Okay? As simple as that. Okay? If there is a specific reference, we'll clearly call out from where we have taken it and all that. Okay? If it is from other books, you may not see the reference, but most of the questions are from material only. Done? Sun Limited has an expertise in consulting business. In the past years, company has gained a market share of about 30% and considers recognizing that as intangible asset. Meaning what they want to recognize as intangible asset? Market share. Is the company's action justifiable or justified?
No.
You only looked at identifiability criteria, correct? What does identifiability say? Separate it and sell it, correct? Can you do so?
No.
Here, my market share, you take. Possible to sell it? No. And there is no control aspect also, which we'll look at the second portion. Okay. Since you can't sell it, meaning it doesn't meet the definition of an intangible asset because it is not, which criteria does it fail?
Separate.
Identifiability criteria. That's what you have to write. Okay. You can just write one line here.
No.
Basically, identifiability ka definition you'll write.
Okay.
That's what they've written here. Market share does not meet the definition of an intangible asset as it is not identifiable. It is not identifiable because you can't separate it, nor is it arising on account of any contract or law. Done? So hence this market share, it cannot be recognized as an intangible asset. Easy?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we go for the second one?
Yes, sir.
What is the second characteristic of intangible asset we saw, sir?
Non-monetary.
Identifiable over. Second one is non-monetary asset. We'll break down into two parts, non-monetary and assets.
Okay.
Non-monetary means what, sir? We already discussed this when we did AS. I told what it is monetary and what is non-monetary as well. Monetary means what?
Which can be denominated in currency.
Correct. Monetary means those components or those assets value fixed. Value fixed, can I write?
Yeah.
Monetary means those components whose value is fixed or which can be expressed in fixed denominations of currency is the exact word standard uses. For your classwork, you can say value is fixed. That's your pet name. Non-monetary obviously means what now? Value, if monetary ka value is fixed means non-monetary ka value obviously
Not fixed.
value fluctuates, can I say? Or maybe value is not fixed / fluctuates. Done? Okay. Goodwill should be what they have told there. A non-monetary asset. Naturally, no. An asset, if you are using it, do you think its value will remain the same, sir? Especially goodwill and all. Matlab, those intangible asset. Value obviously should ultimately like increase or decrease depending on the nature of your business. Goodwill should be specifically a non-monetary asset. So cash, debtors, loan given, loan taken, creditors, all these are not intangible asset. Yes, because debtors also you may see them, but if value is on the paper. Correct? No. So them and all you can't recognize as an intangible asset because their value is fixed. They are monetary assets. Goodwill should be specifically a non-monetary asset. First part is clear, non-monetary. Second part is what? Asset. Now we'll have to go back to the definition of an asset. Asset means what, sir? We already discussed this. Asset means what? BP. Asset is defined, it's common. It's not for a standard specific. Asset, liability, equity, income, gain, all those definitions are common. It's applicable. It's not any standard doesn't define it. Matlab it's defined as a whole.
PPS is tangible in the first level.
Tangible asset. I'm talking only about the asset ka definition. Asset ka definition is common for all the standards. Each standard doesn't define their own component. So what did we say asset there is? What is the meaning of asset? In layman terms, what did we say?
The entity should have control.
We didn't recognize Kohli. BCCI didn't recognize Kohli or Rohit Sharma. Why? Because it is not an asset. Why is it not an asset? You can't control it. Correct or no? So asset is something from which, like you should have a substantial control over it, from which you should get all the benefits and restrict others from using it. I gave cash example. You have 500 rupees in your wallet. You can use it and get all the benefits, or you can prevent me from taking it. Meaning you should use it and get all the benefits, or restrict others from using it. If these criteria are satisfied, then you can call a component as an asset. Got it? Alright. They have given the actual definition here. Asset is a resource. It's an economic resource controlled by the entity as a result of past event. Like debtor. Debtor is an asset. Correct? How did you get debtor? Because you sold the goods. Sale has already happened. That means it's a result of a past event. Asset is an economic resource controlled by an entity. The key component there is controlled. Okay, as a result of past event. Using this, what happened? From which entity will get all the future economic benefits, and they can also prevent others from using it, restrict others from using those benefits. These criteria have to be satisfied for you to call a component as an asset. Got it? So before you get to intangible asset, you have to always check whether it meets the definition of an asset first of all. Okay. Now market share. You have a control over it. Today customers have buying your product. Tomorrow if like a competitor's product, they will buy it. Do you have control over it? It also fails the control aspect. Hence it is not an asset again. So that means that market shares fails both identifiability criteria as well as asset criteria. Hence it is not recognized as an asset. Got it? Okay. Need a minute to collate whatever you have written? Okay, take your time. Can you go further? Okay, they've given certain examples which are not assets. If it is not an asset, obviously it can't be intangible asset. Like no. Few things are not an asset. One is training cost on employees. We have a question on this, but can you tell me, just out of curiosity, why is training cost on employees not an asset? Or I'll give you a little context. You say you're working in some firm, correct? No. So let's say like they trained you on GST. They trained you on some other software also. Okay, like this, they give you some soft skill GST training and stuff. By giving you training, let's say your firm spent 1 lakh. Maybe I'll write down here. They trained you, let's say like A Limited. A Limited trained their employees for or by incurring 1 lakh rupees is training cost. Alright. A Limited feels by providing this training, obviously it will benefit them, hence they've trained. They feel they will get a future economic benefit of 10 lakh rupees. They have trained the employees. Using this, they are getting some benefit. Now, A Limited wants to recognize 1 lakh rupees training cost as intangible asset. Correct? Now, though the training might have happened through a software or through a desktop, but it's the knowledge. Knowledge, can you see? Or it's stored up here. So, since you can't see, they feel 1 lakh rupees, the knowledge base that is created. Okay, that they want to recognize it as an intangible asset. Whether at 1 lakh or 10 lakh, it's a different issue. Okay, let's for simplicity say they want to recognize 1 lakh as intangible asset. Can they do so?
They can't.
They can't. Why?
Because the asset condition, the control is not there.
Asset condition fails. Though the benefit you are getting, okay, and you are able to measure the cost reliably, that is fine. But tomorrow employees can easily leave your company and go. That means do you have control? No. And tomorrow if employee joins another company, let's say that employee joined B Limited, that means B Limited will get all the benefits. Can you restrict B Limited from getting that benefit? Yes. Yeah, but you can't they'll have like one year or 4 months and stuff. Correct? Even like, employees if you see, nobody will have a bonded labor as such. Okay, they'll have a penal clause. Like even if they have, let's say like generally like PSUs, public sector units have, if you go for campus interviews, normally they say you should write in a bond paper that 2 years you have to work for them. But if you want to leave, you pay the fees and get out. But you still if they want, they can pay and get out. Correct? So that means you have no control over it. And if they go and join other company will get all the benefits. That means asset criteria gets failed here. Control also you don't have, nor you can restrict others from getting the benefits. Hence it is not an asset. Hence training cost is not recognized as an intangible asset. Easy? Market share we've already discussed. Customer loyalty, same. Customer loyalty, can you pinpoint it? Today he is with you, tomorrow he can be some others. Yes? Alright, he might be with you from this many years, but not necessary that he'll stay with you longer also. Or dependent, no? That means hence it is, the control aspect fails. Hence it is not an asset. Got it? Alright. Can I move on to the next question?
Yes.
Alright. Anything specific you want to write down? No. The training cost to employees, something like that? No. Anyway, we have a question based on this. Next question is based on that only. Can I?
Yeah.
A company XYZ Limited, they have provided training to its staff on various topics like GST, Ind AS, etc. to ensure the compliance as per the required law. Law requires the company to impart training, hence they have imparted. Can company recognize such cost of staff training as intangible asset? We already discussed this. What did we say?
No control.
It fails the control aspect. That's what is a key word you have to underline. It does not have a control over the staff, and the company and the employees could choose to resign the company at any point of time. That's what you have to write there. I'm not writing the solution. Do you want me to write it?
No.
Or how will you answer? Just out of curiosity, if this question was asked, how will you answer? You need not mug up what is given in study material. First you will say what?
This expenditure.
Let's say it comes for 2 marks. What will you write?
Since this expenditure is towards training employees and employees.
First you will write asset ka definition. Okay, asset is something, asset is an economic resources controlled by the entity from which they will get all the benefits or substantial benefits and restrict others from using it. Okay, so that is your first para. Second para, what will you write?
Here,
Since the company does not have control over the employees, it is not an asset. Final conclusion will be, hence the training cost should not be recognized as an intangible asset but expensed off. You want me to write first question ka maybe one reference?
Okay.
Alright, maybe with this question ka we'll just give you a reference. This is question 2.
Yeah.
Question 2 solution. Don't by heart the standard questions. Hence I'm not giving you a standard solution also. Okay, the keyword is the keywords of the standard should come in your first paragraph. Second para relate to the case and give the conclusion. No point in mugging up things here. Alright, here first you will write first, asset is an economic resource controlled by the entity, or one moment, hang on, I'll write it off in the next page. Which question was this, sir?
2.
Question number 2 solution. Asset is an economic resource controlled by the entity from which future economic benefits is expected to flow to the entity from which future economic benefits is expected to flow to the entity. And also restrict others from getting the benefits. This is your asset ka definition. Fine. Second paragraph you will write, in the present case, purposely I'm trying to write a little faster because your writing speed has to be really good for you to cover the paper. Okay, in CA final and all, the paper is going to be quite lengthy, so you have to make sure that you have a good writing speed. So here also I'm trying to get you practice in the class itself. In the present case, comma, which company is that? XYZ Limited have trained their employees on GST, Ind AS, etc. XYZ, you can continue in the same paragraph. XYZ Limited have no control over the employees or over their employees, as employees can quit or as employees can resign at any point of time. As employees can resign at any point of time. Hence it fails asset definition. Therefore, training cost, have they given the amount of training cost?
No.
Okay. Training cost of rupees ... amount missing, cannot be capitalized as intangible assets. as intangible asset. Okay, depending on the marks you see. If it's just for like 1 or 2 marks, maybe few things you can cut down. All right, or maybe few things you can also add depending on what the marks is all about. Okay, ideally 2 to 3 marks will come. So I think this should be fine. Contents. All right, done with copying or anything? Finished. Okay. It's not necessary you have to copy this only and write. Solution is anyway again study material. You can write the same also. Your call. Whatever you're comfortable. Done?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's recap. What was the recognition criteria of Ind AS 16 PPE, sir? Property, plant and equipment?
Tangible.
Recognition criteria. Not the definition. Only 2 recognition criteria, which are future economic benefits, that is fair, and cost measurement. Yes, same as the recognition criteria for IA also. No change. Intangible asset, you can first it should satisfy the definition of intangible asset, which is identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. Okay, if that is satisfied, then it becomes an intangible asset. For you to show intangible asset in balance sheet, 2 recognition criteria, which is FEB and cost measurement. Got it? And when we say FEB, I already told this. Don't think from the revenue perspective. Sales is also one future economic benefit, and reduction in cost also is a future economic benefits. It could be other benefits also, like morale booster. Like all these are also considered as a benefit. That's what they've called out here. FEB means revenue from sale of products, cost savings, and other benefit also. Fair enough? All right. Next, we have one question. Can we take it up? Recognition criteria, don't worry, it is there ahead. Since the word FEB came here, I thought I'll call out the recognition criteria. Comes in a bit. Can we go for the third one?
Yeah.
Pluto Limited, question number 3. Pluto Limited intends to open a new retail store in a new location in the next few weeks. Pluto Limited has spent a substantial sum of series of television advertisement to promote this new store. They're giving a lot of ads on televisions. Okay. The company has paid an amount of 8 lakh rupees for advertisement before 31st March 20X1. 7 lakh of the sum relates to advertisement shown before 31st March 20X1. Underline that. Totally they've paid how much, sir? 8 lakh. But entire 8 lakh advertisement is not shown on television. Only 7 lakh worth of television advertisements have been shown by the end of the year. And balance 1 lakh advertisement is shown in April. April means this year or next year? Next year. So what should come to your mind automatically? Forget about intangible asset. So it's a prepaid expenditure. Correct? No, only entire 8 lakh can't be recognized as an expense. Only 7 lakh should be booked as an expense for this year, and 1 lakh should be booked as a prepaid expense this year, which will be extra expensed off in the next year. Correct? Alright. And again, since March 2011, that is current year only, that is next year, company has paid a further advertisement cost of 4 lakh rupees. That means they've incurred totally how much, sir? Current year may, let's take this 31st March 20X1 as current year. Okay, they've spent totally 8 lakhs. Correct? And next year they spent again totally 4 lakh. Totally they've spent about 12 lakh rupees. So what is the question they're trying to ask is, or we have another para, let's read that. Pluto Limited, the company, is of the view that such cost can be carried forward as intangible asset. Meaning this 12 lakh rupees, they want to recognize it as an intangible asset. Or probably they want to recognize 8 lakh as intangible asset in the current year, add 4 lakh to intangible asset carrying amount next year, and totally show carrying amount of intangible asset as 12 lakh. That's what they want to do. Is it okay? Okay. What is their justification is, since market research indicates that the new store is likely to be highly successful, please explain and justify whether what they've done is correct or not. As for year ending 31st March 20X1, you only have to give it for current year, that is 31st March 20X1. Okay, 31st March 20X1 means we are only talking about 8 lakh here.
Yeah.
Can we capitalize this expenditure, or should we go to P&L is what we are discussing. Did you get the fund off question? Okay. Before that, what is the recognition criteria? I want to confuse you a little bit. What is the recognition criteria for intangible asset?
It should be
future economic benefits should flow to the entity, and cost should be measured reliably. Is Pluto Limited getting any benefit out of these advertisements?
Yeah.
They only say store is highly successful. Can you measure the cost reliably?
Yeah.
You know the cost? 8 lakh. Correct? No, totally 8 lakh you have spent. Recognition criteria satisfied, sir. Definition you need to check and tell me. That's all. Because there are before applying recognition criteria, you should check the definition, no? Identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. Okay, that you have to tell, I mean, you have to analyze and tell me. Solution we will not show you. Unfortunately, you have books. Okay. But still, don't look at the solution. Only look at the question and see if you can come up with an answer.
It's not identifiable, I think.
Perfect. Now, let's take a simplified example. Coke, Pepsi. Coke, no, they made an ad, sir. They spent 1 crore for this ad, to make this ad. Correct? Can Coke, the company, Coca-Cola, sell that ad to Pepsi?
No.
Can you sell this ads? No. Okay, so it fails the identifiable criteria 1. 2, because it is exclusively related to your company. And 2, one more most important is, it is very difficult to pinpoint the benefit. Like store is successful only because of advertisement.
No.
Like let's say take our coaching center only, correct? Now we have our Google Link app, and like this we are selling our classes online,
Yeah.
correct? Let's say I gave 2 videos as free. I made 2 demo videos and gave it as free. I put it on YouTube, okay? Or I gave it on ads. That 2 demo videos, you can watch it for free. Is it okay? Alright. And let's say through this Facebook ads, Instagram ads and all I'm doing, for that ad I spent 10 lakh rupees. Fair enough? This is the 2 things I'm doing.
Okay.
I gave some videos as free, and I'm advertising everywhere. Google ads, Facebook ads, I'm subscribing, telegrams and all that, for which I've spent how much? 10 lakh rupees. 100 people, let's say, 100 students bought my videos. Assumption. Fair enough? Can I say this advertisement, what I did? How much did I spend for this advertisement?
10
Advertisement, 10 lakh I spent, no? Or let's say, to be realistic, 1000 people are subscribing for video, and I'll get a benefit of 15 lakh through this. Correct? Can I tell I'm getting this benefit of 15 lakh only through advertisement?
No.
Because students buy the demo video, or students buy my classes just by looking at by advertisement, or what do they check? They check the quality of the videos, quality of the contents, how much is coverage, what MCQ question they're doing, study material questions they're doing, test series are they conducting, doubt support is there, price is feasible. Like this 101 factors you check. If it is conducive, then you buy. Correct or no? Can I say students are buying only because I advertised?
No.
I mean, can I say this benefit of 15 lakh is exclusively related to advertisement, or it is related to the whole campaign or business as a whole? It relates multiple factors are there. Hence, you can't pinpoint. Hence, as a thumb rule, advertisement expenditure is not recognized as intangible asset. It always goes off to P&L. Getting it? It fails also intangible identifiability criteria. Most of the advertisements you can't sell.
Yeah.
Okay. But in some case, if you feel you have market for that also, you can't pinpoint the benefit exclusively coming from that.
Okay.
Hence, that criteria is failed. Hence, it is not recognized as intangible asset. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That is what they have given here. Check here. Or maybe we'll read through. If it doesn't make sense, we will write in our own way. Under intangible asset, Ind AS 38 intangible asset. Intangible assets can only be recognized if they're identifiable and cost can be measured reliably. Correct, no sir?
Yeah.
In fact, what will you write? In fact, you tell me how will you write rather than what they're looking at. Let's say it comes for 4 marks. What will you write?
First I write intangible assets.
First, you'll write intangible asset, or maybe just I'll write a short form. Can I call intangible asset as IA going forward?
Okay.
Only for the class.
Okay.
First, you'll write IA ka definition. What is IA ka definition? Should be identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. This you will call out. Correct? And then you will call out recognition criteria, which is FEB and cost measurement. Got it? And then in the second paragraph, what will you write? It fails identifiability criteria, and you cannot really pinpoint how much of the benefit is exclusively related to the advertisement. Rather, it is related to the business as a whole. Hence, don't recognize this as an intangible asset, but recognize it as an expense.
So, in recognition criteria, does FEB mean that FEB arises and can be measured also?
Yeah.
Or is it only
Yeah.
FEB arises?
FEB arises and should be measurable also. They don't say it, but you should be able to reasonably measure it. We're not talking about 100% accuracy here. But then how will you say that benefit is coming?
I mean, advertisement, if the sale before advertisement and sale after advertisement.
That's what. Again, it's not only through advertisements. You can always compare how much was my sale before advertisement, how much was my sale after advertisement. Even after advertisement sales, it is not exclusively related to advertisement.
Right.
That is also dependent on your product feature, market condition. Maybe market improved.
Yeah.
Correct? Now corona, people are not buying, people are not traveling. Once virus goes off, which industry do you think is going to take off like this? Hospitality industry. People are desperate to travel. Shopping industry. People are desperate to shop. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Correct? So that means, can you say my advertisement is very successful now?
No.
Because pre-corona period, my sales was only 10 lakh. I just gave one ad. My sales is 1 crore now. Can I say 90 lakh is extra benefit only on account of advertisement? No, because it also depends on economic factors and various other factors also.
Yeah.
So difficult to pinpoint how much of benefit you got exclusively through advertisement. Rather, it relates to the whole business. Hence, we don't recognize advertisement expense. Got it? This is what you'll write. Yes or no? For these reasons, in fact, they've called out here. Check. Ind AS 38 specifically prohibits recognizing advertisement expenditure as an intangible asset. Alright? That's what. These two criteria they've called out and called it. Maybe one more point you can write down there. That is what? Difficult to find out the benefits exclusively related to advertisement. You want me to solve this question or you got what? This. Got it.
The benefit part can you use?
Benefit. Okay. First you will write intangible asset ka definition. Recognition criteria ka definition. Then you will write in the present case. In the present case, maybe that one line you can write down if you want. It is there in the next question, but still, okay, since you have asked, we'll write it off. In the present case, it is difficult to measure the benefits arising exclusively. It is difficult to measure the benefits arising exclusively on account of advertisement campaign or ad campaign. But rather the benefit is related to business as a whole. Hence, advertisement expense are not recognized as IA, as in intangible assets, but they are expensed off. But they are expensed in PRL or SPA.
Yes, sir.
Done? Again, so much whether to write or not depends on the number of marks they're asking question. For 1 or 2 marks they're asking, you can just write these 2 paragraphs and be done with it. Okay, it's all like, it's open, sir. Hence case study I don't prefer in writing solution for everything. It's okay as long as I want you to be thorough with the provision. Okay, once you're thorough with the provision, they can ask any question. You can always twist and turn. It's second paragraph that you write in standard is your relating to the case. That is your vocabulary. Please don't mug up. We have enough thing to mug up in CA final. I don't want you to mug up these case study questions also. Know the provision and its keywords. Yeah. Preferably if you know the exact words the Ind AS says, you will get very good marks. What exactly the standard says. If you're not able to remember it, at least twist and turn a little bit. At least let keywords come in. Then at least you'll still get marks. Okay, that much you need to mug up or remember. Other things, it's okay, write it in your own words, because same case study coming is very, very rare. Fine. Hence we have printed the solution also for your convenience. Done? Yeah. Okay, this is the first part. Now you have to expense it. That we have got it. Yeah. How much will you expense? And they asked for 31st March 20x1. 31st March 20x1 means current year or next year? Current year. Entire 8 lakh will you recognize as expense, sir?
No.
Why?
Because only 7 lakh both has.
Perfect. Though you spend entire 10 lakh, entire advertisement came in television or only 7 lakh came? 7 lakh came. That means out of this 8 lakh, 7 lakh will be expensed off in PRL. Balance 1 lakh will be recorded as a prepaid expense, which will be recognized next year. How about next year ka 4 lakh expenditure? Obviously, you will be recognizing it next year only. Next year, totally 5 lakh expenditure will be expensed off. So 7 this year, 5 next year, totally 12 lakhs. That is what they have given here. Okay. The cost would be recognized on an accrual basis. Correct? No. Therefore, advertisement expenditure paid before 31st March 2011, only 7 lakh would be recognized as an expense and 1 lakh will be recognized as prepayment. We won't use the term prepaid expense here. India has used the term prepayments. Prepayment is nothing but your prepaid expense. Okay. In the year ended 31st March 20x1 and 4 lakh of cost that you incurred in the next year. will obviously be recognized in 31st March 20x2 only. 20x2 means next year, correct? No?
Yeah.
Okay. Any doubt?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
Or maybe somebody is copying something. I'll just show them some. Okay, recognition criteria of intangible asset. Intangible asset henceforth we are referring to as IA. Okay, we already know this. It's the same criteria of PP, correct? Same as PP. So that means it is future economic benefits, that is FEB, and cost of the asset can be measured reliably. Cost measurement. Same. Can I move on? Next one.
Yeah.
This requirement, which requirement? The recognition criteria requirement, which is FEB and cost measurement, that applies to two other components also. Cost incurred initially to acquire or internally generate intangible asset, and those incurred subsequently to add or replace or service it. So, and this we have already studied. We have studied replacement parts in PP, sir.
Yeah.
Will you add new part ka cost? If it meets the recognition criteria, that is what they are saying is. Okay, subsequent addition, subsequent replacement, etc. you will capitalize only if recognition criteria is satisfied. Okay, but before that it has to again satisfy intangible asset ka definition also. So indirectly all the 5 features have to be satisfied. Got it? And this also goes for not only acquired asset. Acquired asset means you purchased it, paid cash, or you gave equity shares, or whatever you gave and acquired it, purchased it off, or internally generated intangible asset. Like certain companies, they do research and all. Correct? No? Like they develop their own like product, patent, software and all they develop. That they didn't purchase. So they are self-generated intangible assets. Even for self-generated intangible asset, this recognition criteria has to be satisfied is what they are saying. Whether you buy an intangible asset or you generate it on your own, recognition criteria always has to be satisfied. Indirectly, they are also saying even definition of an intangible asset should be satisfied. Got it? Whether you buy it or you make it or produce it. Any doubt?
So, what is Google and Microsoft now? All their employee costs and all that will be always capitalized over it.
Depends on what they're doing. Because some of their employees, not all Google employees are in charge in developing software also. Some will be on the maintenance portion also. So maintenance expenditure you write off. On development you check recognition criteria. If it satisfies, you can. Very much. Alright. Again, there is a thumb rule. I'll tell you next one. Next one. So far okay? Yeah. But generally as a thumb rule, replacement expenditure and subsequent expenditure are not capitalized, but they are expensed off. Check here. The nature of intangible assets are such that in many cases there are no additions to an asset or replacement to part of it. First of all, you don't replace. Patent. You got, let's say you purchased a patent for 10 years. Correct? No? Then what do you do after 10 years? It will expire. Gone. So that means there is no question of replacing it. You have to substitute with a new patent. You can't substitute the old patent because technology would have changed. So a subsequent expenditure will either generate a new intangible asset or subsequent expenditure will be expensed off. Let's say you bought a patent for 5 years for 10 lakh rupees. Okay. The vendor said, if you want, you can renew the patent for 2 more years by paying 10,000 rupees. Correct? This renewal fees, can I add, is first of all a patent my intangible asset?
Yeah.
Go back to the criteria. What is the intangible asset criteria? Definition is identifiable. Can you identify?
Yes.
You purchased it separately means easily you can also sell it or you can identify it. Yes or no? So that means it is identifiable, it is non-monetary, and it is also an asset. Yeah. Correct? Value fluctuates. And without physical substance because it comes in a piece of paper and piece of paper is not a dominant factor there. Correct? No? Recognition criteria. Future economic benefits and cost measurement. You have purchased a patent means naturally there would be some benefit accruing to you, otherwise you would have not purchased it. So I'm assuming FEB is satisfied. Cost is clearly measured, which is 10 lakh. So can you recognize this as intangible asset? Very much yes. How about renewal fees?
Renewal fees, if it is adding,
are you getting any new intangible asset or it is just a maintenance? It's renewing the patent, for meaning you got it for initially 5 years, no? Now they're saying if you want you can use it for 2 more years by just paying a fees of 10,000.
Then it is actually capitalized.
Why?
Because I am getting extra
But like just check about this. Is it like subsequent expenditure when you incur? Obviously, it should increase your extra benefit. No. It is keep maintaining.
But 2 more.
It is 2 more years. It is maintaining. Like you do bike service. If you don't do bike service, bike will break down. Bike service cost will you capitalize?
No, if my life of the bike was 10 years, the service will make it 12 years, then
Generally that will not be the case.
Okay.
Here, like just the thing is, all these renewal fees are like petty in nature. It is not creating a new intangible asset. See, by incurring subsequent expenditure, benefit though definitely you will get, but the amount of benefit it will not be like sufficiently different. If it is sufficiently different, means you recognize new intangible asset. Okay, if it is substance, let's say renewal fees was 7 lakh rupees. Okay, or like with extra features. Okay, like let's say you brought a new technology in that, and that also you gave. Then you could say like this can be capitalized. But here in most cases this will be like what? It's mostly towards upkeep, maintenance. It will be recognized. I'm saying the thumb rule. This is debatable. Okay, it'll look a little dicey from that side also. But mostly the subsequent expenditure on will be a maintenance expenditure. What do we do for repairs and maintenance? P&L. So it will be expensed off. And moreover, you can't point out how much of the benefit. 2 years you're getting the benefit, no? Correct? It is only for 10,000 now. See, okay, if you let's take your point. You say because of 10,000 you're getting extra benefit, correct? No? How much? Let's say you get a benefit. I'll only give you the number. Let's say you get a benefit of 10 lakh rupees. Okay. Can you say this 10 lakh rupees benefit you're getting only because of this 10,000 or other factors are also there?
In that case, even the initial 10,000
initially when you bought it, no, your business is oriented towards that. Subsequently you would have developed. Okay, so difficult to pinpoint exactly here the thing. Initially they will satisfy the intangible asset criteria, sir. Okay, otherwise every expenditure will be expensed off.
But instead of 10k, if it is 7 lakh?
Which one? If it's new feature with amount, the amount is substantial, and if it is with like extra features, then it should be capitalized as separate intangible asset. It's like you're not getting a same intangible asset, you're getting a new intangible asset there. Capitalize it as separate. That is what standard is saying. Little debatable. Okay, so you could also a little dicey there. This is a rule standard is saying. Because the subsequent expenditure, no, the benefit that you get, it's not exclusively related. Because initially your process was not set. Employees were not set, product was not set. Here everything is set, no. That means whatever benefit you are getting is on account of that also. Now you clearly know. Initially when you start the class, first day, you'll be little, like we'll have a little less understanding. But 3-4 days into the line, my space and all, you'll get used to it. Yes or no? So that is set for subsequent expenditure. Hence, difficult to point out that this benefit is exclusively related to that. This 10 lakh. Hence, renewal fees or subsequent expenditures, etc., are generally expensed off. Thumb rule. That's what they're saying here. Generally, in many cases, they're saying. They didn't say use the word all case. Check there. In many cases. Okay, even they're giving the same explanation. Check. There are no additions. First of all, additions will not come, they're saying. Okay, and here check the second point. In addition, it is often difficult to attribute subsequent expenditure directly to a particular intangible asset rather to a business as a whole. Okay, in fact, they're saying, why did you renew this patent? Because you are getting some benefits. Correct? No, benefits relates exclusively to intangible asset or the business as a whole. Business as a whole is growing, hence it is very difficult to pinpoint that this 10,000 or 7 lakh rupees, whatever you're paying, no, is exclusively related to that intangible asset. Benefit is also very difficult to relate, and expenditure is also very difficult to relate to intangible asset. Is a stand that I take. Does that make sense? Second point made sense to you?
Sir, is there any cases where we can?
You can. That's what they're saying here. Check. Subsequent expenditure, in fact, alright, here let's see. Accordingly, more subsequent expenditure is likely to maintain the expected future economic benefits. They will not increase, they will maintain rather than meeting the definition of intangible asset and recognition criteria. Okay, but if you feel no, you are getting extra benefits that you are saying. Earlier you used to get let's say 100%, now you are getting 500%. Okay, and if you're clearly able to pinpoint, then create a new intangible asset. Okay, that's what the stand is. Add a new intangible asset is what they're saying. Ideally, no. Okay, because most of them will have a little shelf life, they will expire. Because technology would have changed for intangible asset. Practical limitations I'm seeing. Theoretically, it may look like you add, but practically 5 years mein intangible ka technology would have changed a lot. Hence, it would create a new intangible asset than increasing the old intangible asset. That is the stand that I take. Fair enough? Did we understand this? Since we spoke quite a lot to this, let's have a quick recap of this. What did we discuss on this?
Any subsequent
expenditures generally are Expensed. Why do we expense it off? What is the rationale behind the standard coming to this conclusion?
Because generally there is no addition to the value.
Generally, we don't add. Once you get a software, you get it for 2 years and then it is done mostly. Okay, so no additions will be there. Okay, two will be.
There is no addition to the.
And whatever, if you incur any additions, that additional expenditure is difficult to pinpoint that it relates exclusively to this intangible asset. Rather, it relates to business as a whole. Because you're renewing it only because your business is doing good that way also. So it relates not only to that intangible asset but to business as a whole. Hence, we don't capitalize it to a particular intangible asset but expense it off. This is the stand they're taking for subsequent expenditure. Easy? Okay. Now, can I go for the next question then?
So the third point.
Which one, sir?
Third point.
Subsequent expenditure. That's what. Subsequent expenditure on brand, masthead. Masthead means logo. You see that logos of the companies, no? That we call it as masthead. Publishing titles, customer list, items of similar nature. Whether you acquire it or you internally generate it, doesn't matter. Subsequent expenditure for all of this is always recognized in PRL. That's what they're saying. That's what we also discussed. No? Irrespective. Generally difficult. Because brands and all, like, when you spend on a brand and all, it's mostly towards business as a whole. Hence difficult to point. Hence for all this, it will be transferred off to P&L compulsorily. Most, as a thumb rule, subsequent expenditure goes off to P&Ls. That much you can remember. That's good enough. Fair enough?
It's always recognized.
Always, yes. Because in these cases and all, like brand and all, it is very difficult to say that renewal or subsequent expenditure relates only to the brand. It will be related to many other factors. It will relate to business as a whole. Hence, it always goes off to P&L. That's the standard they are recognizing. Okay, remember this point better then. Fair enough?
Okay. So, any subsequent expense on these items?
P&L. But the reason you will write is, if they give subsequent expenditure on brand 10,000, how will you answer that question? As per Ind AS 38, subsequent expenditure on brand should always be recognized in PRL. Because subsequent expenditure is difficult to relate it to the brand, but rather it relates to business as a whole or entity as a whole. Hence, we can't capitalize. That's a point you will write. Okay, now you want to write that down?
Yes, sir.
You want me to write? Okay, maybe for online students we'll write. Subsequent expenditure on brand, logo, customer list, etc. is not capitalized as intangible asset because the benefits that are accruing from these subsequent expenditures related to business as a whole than to a particular intangible asset. They relate to business as a whole than to a particular intangible asset. Fair enough? This one point, maybe you can remember it.
So in case if let's say Adidas is they do the revamping of their logo, right? So they incur additional expenditure.
New logo, new intangible asset. Because they revamp the whole thing. No? So I recognize it because you will not sell the old logo now. No, you'll sell the new logo. I mean, new logo will create new intangible asset.
It's not an addition.
It is not an addition because old logo nobody will buy now. Old logo is outdated. You write it off. Okay, you impair it or write it off. That we'll see later. Other standards talk about
Or any
Create.
modification on the logo or something like that.
Nike, instead of straight tick mark, they put audit tick mark. Correct. That's modification. Correct. No? Or they box it. They box it. Okay. But still, that becomes a new logo. Correct. No? So since it's a new logo, it's separable. Correct. Now I'll give you old logo and new logo. Which one will you buy? Obviously, the boxed logo or the new logo, yes or no? That means it is creating new intangible asset or is it adding? New one. So ideally it should be capitalized as new. Hence, as a thumb rule, they said either it will expense off or it will create a new intangible asset. Addition scenario is very, very rare in case of intangible asset. Fine?
Yeah.
Debatable. Okay, practical. But theoretically, it doesn't create, it doesn't add to old intangible asset is what they're saying. Yes, hope, I think everybody's copied this. Can we go and solve the next question, sir?
Sure.
Next, I think you should be able to answer. Are you comfortable or intangible asset is freaking us a little bit?
No.
Confusing or no?
That's fine.
It's fine. Mercury Limited is preparing its accounts for the year ended 31st March 20X2 and is unsure about how to treat the following items. The company completed a grand marketing and advertisement campaign costing 4.8 lakh. I need not read further at all. I know already what to do. Correct? What should I do? Recognize this intangible asset or expense it off?
Expense it off.
Why will you expense it off?
Because the benefit cannot be pinpointed.
Because the benefit that you are getting relates to business as a whole than to this particular intangible asset. Okay? Alright. So that's what you're saying. The finance director has authorized this campaign on the basis it would create a benefit of on the basis it would create 8 lakh of additional profits. No doubt you are getting benefit out of it, but that benefit is not exclusively related to the ad campaign, but it relates to business as a whole. That's what you'll write here.
Yeah.
Correct? This point you'll write.
Yes.
Hence what you'll write here. These are expensed off. Can we look at the solution is what they have done?
Yes.
Marketing advertisement campaign. No intangible asset will be recognized because it is not possible to identify future economic benefits that are attributable only due to this campaign. Fair enough? Rather, it relates to business as a whole. That word you can add it up here if you want. Correct? Hence, all the expenditure should be expensed off.
Yeah.
Done?
Yes.
I've given 2 more. We'll look at that. But this is clear with everybody?
Yes.
No intangible asset recognized, but expensed off. Second what they're saying. A new product was developed during the year. Let's do a thing. I'll put this on hold. Okay, it relates to some other concept, next concept. We'll put this on hold for the time being. Once we do that concept, I'll come back to this. Okay, remind me about this. Okay, third one, what are they saying? I think third we can cover. Staff participated in a training program which cost the company 5 lakh. I think again you got what concept they're asking.
Yeah.
Can we capitalize?
No.
No, because
You can't control it.
control aspect gets failed. Correct? Let's read it anyway, nonetheless. The training organization has made a presentation to the directors of the company outlining that the incremental profits to the business over the next 12 months will be 7 lakh. 5 lakh they spent and they're getting in the next 12 months itself they'll recover 7 lakh. No doubt there is good amount of benefits. What amount should appear as intangible asset in according to Ind AS 38 and Ind AS 36? Ind AS 36 is impairment. Point number 2 I told no. Point number 2 we skipped here. No, that relates to impairment. Hence I skipped. Okay. So, but I'll tell you. I'll do one more concept. Then I'll tell that impairment ka pointer. So what about staff training cost here? What will you write?
PNL.
Training program. No asset will be recognized because which aspect is failed? Control. Because there is no control aspect or control of the company over the staff, and when the staff leaves, the benefit of training also will depart. Staff gone, benefit also gone. Hence no control, no intangible asset. Correct? This one, just a few minutes, we'll put it on hold. Anything you want to write down for this particular question?
So control aspect is actually in the definition the second point.
Asset.
Non-monetary asset.
Because the second aspect of identifiable, intangible asset is, first is identifiable, second one is non-monetary asset. In fact, in study material you will see I think only non-monetary, but it's actually non-monetary asset. They've broken it down that way, that's it. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Nothing to write here?
1 second.
This approach is working out for you, no?
Yes, sir.
Like, do the questions which we feel is little complicated, which are simple enough, which is straightforward application of concepts. We look at the solutions and move on.
Okay.
The only reason why we're doing it is we don't want you to spend that 300-350 hours completing FR. Okay, we want you to finish because trust me, that will not help you in the long run examination. We want you to complete the FR also as quickly as possible, but covering entire thing also. We don't want to skip, nor we don't want to take too much time. Hence, complicated questions or those questions which is not easily going into our head, we will solve. Those which are straightforward, we'll do the solution. Fine?
No.
Measurement. Okay, I'll relate now that you know. Initially, all PPs are recognized. I'm not talking about intangible asset, I'm talking about PP. Initially, PP is recognized at what, sir? Cost. Here also, initially, all intangible assets are measured at cost. Now you are able to appreciate why we spend so much time on intangible asset or PP.
Yeah.
Many concepts are same. Now, tuck we can finish. Done. And what is the cost for PPE purpose there we studied? Purchase cost. Purchase cost में what and all you added or what and all you excluded?
Add the
Import duty, add. Non-refundable taxes, add. Trade discount and rebates, subtract. Same thing. Purchase price, import duty, non-refundable purchase tax after deducting discounts and rebates. Same there, no change. Correct? What is the second component you added for cost? Purchase cost, DAC. Direct cost, directly attributable cost means those costs incurred to bring the PPEs to the present location and to the present condition for it to operate in a manner as intended by the management. Same DAC. But here the example of DAC could be cost of employee benefits. Like you told, Google employee is working on their software development. Correct? No, that software cost what? I mean that salary cost. What will you do? Capitalize. That's what they mean by employee benefits. Done. Professional and legal fees. Sometimes you have to register the patent, or you have to take advice of legal, some expert whether to buy this patent or not to buy this patent. Those professional and legal fees, testing charges if there is anything, you have to add up. Testing proceeds if you are sold, deducted. Very, very hypothetical here. Software, no. Because you want to hit a particular range. If it is there that you are able to sell even half completed, half baked software, that proceeds ideally should be deducted according to me. Nowhere it's called out, but I'm saying my view. Same which you applied for India 16, same has to be applied here also. Done? Yeah. Then third component in PPE was DSR. There is no question of dismantling here. So DSR is excluded. Got it? That's it. In fact, there we studied what? Any doubt?
So location and condition. But for intangibles, is there any concept of location?
Location, no. Condition you could say. Have they called out really location there? Intended use they're saying. That I told for my reference. Okay? You say for management intended use. That's good enough. Maybe you don't write location and condition. Just write condition maybe. Better. Because intangible you can use it anywhere. It's all digital world now. So location, you're right there. Location word you can cut off. Okay, those expenditure incurred to bring the asset to its intended use as per management. That you can write. Fine. Thank you. Yes. And in there also we studied what is not a DAC. Yeah. Can you help me recollect what is not a DAC? Or maybe I'll tell you. Relocation cost? No. Reorganization cost? No. Redeployment cost? No. Initial operating losses? No. Promotion cost? No. Advertisement cost? No. Same here also. Administration cost, abnormal loss, everything is covered. Here you can bring in more like training cost, customer loyalty, market share. Even those are not DACs. That's all. A base is set. Once a base is set, now we can go a little faster. Yes? Yeah. That's what they've given here. Cost of introducing a new product like advertisement and promotion. Cost of doing a business in new location. Including staff training. General administrative and general overhead cost. Initial operating loss. Redeployment cost. You can also bring in what? Customer loyalty. Correct? Market share also if you want you can bring it up. So that this will be like kind of comprehensive for you.
But how is there a DAC anyway, sir?
I'm just saying this should not be added in a way. Okay. Not specifically saying it's a DAC. These costs should not be considered. It's nice to have everything in one go, no? Hence I'm bringing in these also. Not necessarily a DAC, I agree with you. But these should not be added. This also you will not add, this also you will not add. For that reason I've just brought in there. That's all. Got it? Okay. You want a break? Deferred consideration. Did we do this concept in PP?
Yeah.
Yes. What did we discuss for deferred consideration?
Only capitalized cash.
PP should only be capitalized at cash price equivalent. The difference between cash price equivalent and transaction price should be allocated as interest charges over the contract term. Yes or no? Yes. Same thing here also. If payment is deferred beyond normal terms, then cost of intangible asset is cash price equivalent. Just underline that. Okay. The difference between this amount and the total payments is recognized as interest expense over the period of credit, meaning over the period of contract, unless it is capitalized as per borrowing cost standard. Okay. Interest cost generally is expensed off, but we did one thing already, borrowing cost. If it is a qualifying asset, what do we do?
For that period we will capitalize.
For that period we account. That's what they are saying there. General interest costs are expensed off. But if borrowing cost ka standard applies and if it says such borrowing cost like interest should be capitalized, then you capitalize. Got it? That's all they're trying to say there. Borrowing cost, we have not spent too much time. It's we have not discussed in total. I've just told you what is qualifying asset. Qualifying asset means what? As a recap?
Qualifying asset is the asset
which takes substantial period of time to get ready for its intended use. You don't have to write that down, it will come next only, but just saying, okay, so that when I come to that standard again, it will not be a new thing for you, something which we have already discussed.
The substantial time is not 1 year, right?
What a substantial period is not defined. Okay, AS used to take, if you check AS borrowing cost, accounting standard on borrowing cost, they used to assume ordinarily a period of 12 months, accounting standard used to take it as substantial period. In days there is no defined. Hence in one problem PP ka you check, 10 months was not considered as a substantial period, but 9 months was considered as a substantial period. Both the justifications are fine. Do write a note that you have assumed, you have made so and so assumption. They will give you marks for that. Okay, just now we saw no deferred consideration. Or rather, I think they've given a simple example. Let's take cover of this example. Jupiter Limited, they acquire a new energy efficient technology. Technology is obviously intangible asset. Correct, no? Which will significantly reduce energy cost of manufacturing. Maybe they're generating some power or some energy. We don't know what energy is that. And because of this technology, they are saying they're getting benefits. Reduction in cost is also a benefit, right? Okay, now they've given a series of cost. Here, this is only the answer, okay? This is the answer. This is the question. These two are questions. They've given series of cost. You just have to determine whether we can capitalize that cost or we need to expense it off. First, cost of new solar technology. You purchased a technology. Can you add technological cost? Obviously, it's a purchase cost. No, that is a major cost. It gets capitalized, correct? In the solution, this we can tick mark. Solution, I'm putting double tick marks. Trade discount. What do we do for trade discount, sir?
We
Deducted. Have they deducted it?
Yes.
Yes. Training course for staff in new technology. Though it will create a benefits, but it will fail control aspect. Hence, though you have spent 50,000 and though you will get the benefits, it will not be capitalized, but it will be expensed off. It goes off the P&L. Initial testing charges of 35,000. Can I add?
Yes.
Yes. Loss incurred while other parts of the plant shut down during testing and training. Initial operating losses. What do we do? P&L. Because not a directly attributable cost. Whether you shut down the other part or not, this technology will still go on. Yes or no? So it is not a DAC as such. Fair enough? Initial operating losses and all are not capitalized but expensed off. That's all. So that means though you have spent 10 lakh 10,000, you will only capitalize to the extent of 9 lakh 35,000. These two will be transferred to PRL. Just a simple example. I think we have one more related to this. Can we do of this?
Yes, sir.
Question 5. Venus India Private Limited, they acquired a software for internal use. Underline the words acquired, sir. So it is not a self-generated, it is a purchased one for 10 lakh rupees. Can you add 10 lakh rupees?
Yes.
Okay. For now, it looks yes. Let's read it further. The amount payable for the software was 4 lakh immediately, or rather 6 lakh immediately, 4 lakh in 1 year's time. Totally was how much, sir? 10 lakh. Out of this 10 lakh, no, they are saying 6 lakh you have to pay immediately and 4 lakh you will pay after 1 year. That means what? You are deferring this payment.
Yes.
So that means you have to apply deferred concept.
Yes.
Correct? That is what they're saying. Can you capitalize 6 lakh? Since it is paid immediately, can we capitalize 6 lakh? See, they have added 6 lakh in the first problem. This is a solution. This is a solution. Have they added 6 lakh?
Yeah.
Solution mein? Yes. They've added 4 lakh. Check. They've not added 4 lakh. They've done something. 3 lakh 63. 4 lakh you will pay after 1 year, no? That means, can I say this 4 lakh is a future value?
Yes.
We are doing the accounting now. That means we are interested in present value.
Yes.
At present value only we call it as cash equivalent. Same thing we have done in the one problem also.
Yeah.
3 installments was there. 33,33,333 problem.
Yeah.
At one. So find out the present value. Have they given discount factor for the present value? You check.
Yes.
Cost of capital of the company is 10%. So 4 lakh you are paying after 1 year. 10% will be 0.9090. 10% literally you can buy out, sir. 0.9090826475136824 because you will be applying 10% a lot of times. So it's good if you can actually buy out it off. It naturally will come to you. But anyways, I'm saying, okay. So 4 lakh multiplied by 0.9090 is how much, sir? 3,63,636. Have they added 3,63,636? You check, sir.
Yes.
That's what they got. Basically, they've taken a discount factor and they've done. They've divided 1 divided by 1. 1 divided by 1 by 1.1 is only a discount factor, no?
Right.
That's what they've done there. Easy?
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to do that, you can write 4 lakh into 0.9090. If you're comfortable that way. Okay, going back. Hope no doubt till here.
No, sir.
Other expenditure they have given. Purchase tax they have given. Okay, they have not mentioned whether it is recoverable or non-recoverable.
Yeah.
If it is recoverable,
Then we add.
Recoverable means we'll get it back.
Yeah.
So no addition. If it is non-recoverable, we add. Here they've assumed that it is non-recoverable. Okay, hence they've added. Fine. 1 lakh purchase tax. Don't look at entry tax. Look at purchase tax. Purchase tax of 1 lakh I'm talking about. Okay. They've assumed that it is not recoverable and they've added. Entry tax of 10%. Recoverable later from tax department. Since it is recoverable, will we add it or will we expense it off? Expense it off. So see, have they added or they've written nil? Not to be considered as it is a refundable taxes. Easy?
Yeah.
Legal fees. Consultancy fees for implementation. Can I add both?
Yes.
Legal fees is required for me to register in my name probably. Consultancy fees for implementation. Unless I do implementation, will it be brought to the management? Will it reach management intended use? Now that means these two are tax. Can I add 87,000 legal fees and consultancy fees?
Yes.
Have they added?
Yes.
Legal fees 87,000, consultancy fees 1,20,000. Put together, this is your cost. That's all. Anything specifically you want to write down or anything you want me to dictate?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Suppose that 6 lakh also was delayed by 1 year, or just modifying that example.
Then 10 lakh.
One moment, just 1 moment, sir. Just modifying this example. This is only for your reference. It's not relevant. Your reference, mein 6 lakh was to be payable after 1 year. 4 lakh had to be payable after 2 years if they had told. Nothing immediately. 4 lakh after 1 year, 6 lakh after 1 year, 4 lakh after 2 years. What you would have done?
Then discounting factor.
You still have to find out present value. So what will you do here? 6 lakh into discount factor is 10%, no?
Yeah.
First year ka discount factor will be 0.9090. That is 1 divided by 1.1. Correct, no?
Yeah.
And this one ka present value will be 4 lakh into 0.8264.
Yes.
That 8264, how do you get?
1 divided by 1.1.
Perfect. This is nothing but 1 divided by 1.1 whole power n. N is 2 here because second year, no? That's how you get. So you'll get some value here. Like this will be how much?
Individual.
Or whatever. A total you're saying, no? Put together.
8,76.
8,76,000. These two put together is 8,76,333.
333. Sorry, 03.
0333. That means you will capitalize at this amount, but you're paying how much totally? 10 lakh. Correct. The difference between these two is nothing but time value of money ka interest cost, which will be amortized over 2 years. Putting up the interest table. Easy?
Yes.
That's what you had to do if they had modified it that way, which is not applicable in this particular case. Nice.